Greetings all, today we're going to be going over my Venom card collection. Starting here are just some random cards that I get here and there as I try to collect some Venoms. I did start collecting when I was, say, 12, 13, somewhere around there, and then over the years I ignored that. So in the last several years I started grabbing some cards here and there off of eBay and such, and starting to build this collection, and I've actually been quite excited and looking forward to making this video for you, where I took my entire collection as I'm still building it, and there's cards arriving day to day here. I finally set off to organize them from my worst to favorite, and for this I'm looking at the Venom art, the design, his pose, everything, and the card itself. I'm judging the whole cards, and it's completely subjective. There's nothing else behind it. I'm just looking at the cards that I like. Some of them I can be quite biased on since they have some history or some nostalgia or some memories to when I first got that card and such. If they have a different value, I don't care which one's worth more money, which one's less. It has nothing to do with rarity or anything like that. But we'll be looking at every front and every back, so everything is involved. And I just want to clarify, the way I collect Venom cards is just collect every different kind of Venom that I can find. If they repeat and they have different colors, I don't care for that. And in the back, I have some tiny collections. I do enjoy the various symbiotes. There's also Carnage and Morbius and even Nightcrawler that I started collecting, but then I gave all that up, as Venom by itself is quite enough. If I were to have every single release of a Venom card, even if there's similar releases, which I don't do that in my collection, I'm keeping every different card, then there's something like over 500 different Venom cards, so I don't need to get into collecting other characters. And my worst card of all is this Overpower card, which really just shows Brock and sort of a silhouette of Venom. I remember when I was young and these Overpower cards came in, I was not a fan. It was some kind of card game, but it's not a like collector's kind of card. They're these plasticky feel, rounded edges. They're just different, but I gotta get them all nowadays, right? As long as Venom is on it. So the second one, also an Overpower card, has a little bit better of an illustration. At least we got Venom here. It looks kind of goofy. I do like the body. It's kind of thick and stuff. So let's move on to the next one. I got this card pretty recently, and it's a fairly new card. Comparatively, most of my cards are older cards. And actually, Marvel cards stopped being a thing over the years. They were big in the 90s, and then early 2000s and stuff, they died out, and then they came back in the late 2000s now with a different kind of mindset of being collector's cards and, you know, not what they used to be. All that said, I'm not a fan of this card. It's a new card, and it just leaves a lot to be desired. What a boring silhouette. And in the back, it has your basics that you'd see with a lot of cards, the different categories and strengths. This isn't even exactly Venom, because back here it explains that this is Peter Parker in the suit and a newer part of the lore. Next one, this is a collection you'll see more of, as when you put them together, they form a picture, a bigger scene. This is Venom being struck by supersonic waves. That's his weakness, and it really shows him in a weak way, not much color and all that. The back of it has the basic info. Here's another Overpower card, a bit better of an illustration. You can see this digital style of painting, but this is a different kind of Overpower card. It's like a collector's one instead of just being a game card, although the information on the back is all game stuff. So again, stuff I'm not interested in. That's why it's at the bottom here. Next one is another Overpower card. You can see the quality of the design, the type of card, the rounded edges. Again, these are not cardboard. These are more of a type of plastic so that they're more durable for gaming, and they all have the same back. Next, we have a pretty decent card, actually. This is a Fleer Ultra Spider-Man card, first of that. So right here we have the alien costume, so it's not quite Venom, but it does have the symbiote. The back is quite decent, especially comparing to the previous ones. Next one, this is some kind of collector's card. Looks like a pop-out something maybe you get in the cereal box. It's not that. I know there's another one like that out there. The back is very plain. The design of Venom isn't that amazing, but it's definitely better than I feel what we've seen so far. Next one is Venom. It's another Overpower card, gaming card. Not interested, but it does have Venom in a pretty fun pose here. You can see his whole body, and he's eating a bunch of hot dogs. It's kind of fun. It shows him bigger. The design of this card's a little different, so you see more of Venom on here. Next up, we have another Overpower card with the design of the previous one, so there's a little window of the illustration here, but I really do like this illustration. It's more wacky, wild, hence this this one made it this far. I think that this is the highest one of the overpower cards. Next, we'll be getting into mostly just actual trading and collector's cards. Having just said that, this one actually is another gaming card of another game. So this is Contest of Champions Venom. Decent illustration, but again, the back of it is more game-based, and it's, yeah, just not what I'm looking for when collecting these. This is a collector's card. I'm not sure exactly everything about this, but it does have non-English all over it, and it looks like another gaming kind of card. The shininess effects that are placed on the card leave a bit to be desired as they make the actual illustration unclear. If this illustration was applied more clearly, this would actually be a pretty cool looking illustration and art, but otherwise it misses the mark. And yeah, having barely anything on the back, that's definitely a negative for me. Next, we got this one, which reminds me of an illustrator. I don't remember his name. I just don't feel this one. It's just comparing the Venoms and all that. Like, I like this as an artwork in and of itself, but comparing like the Venom here of all the Venoms, just not that much of a fan. But the back of it, I like the face there and the write-up. Next one, we got a nice 1991 Marvel Arch Enemies. So this is with Spider-Man and Venom versus each other. You've got your basic duo look here, and the back has a good amount of description, has some illustration there. Not bad, kind of something that you'd expect from this era. Then we have Spirit of Venom. Venom is very tiny on here, and there's a lot going on. Hence, this card is as low as it is, because otherwise, I actually enjoy this card because there's a lot of characters I like on there, like Demo Goblin and Ghost Rider, and this comic is just an awesome comic. And the back of it has the close-ups of their faces, the information on there. I do like this card, but as far as Venom, he's not showcased here as much as he could be. Next one is apart from that earlier one you saw where he was getting zapped with their supersonic noises. This is the disguise card showing his disguise ability. And again, nothing that interesting. The ink work here is really thick and kind of not that intricate and close and detailed. Then you got that basic back with the explanation. I do like that appearance of the back, but we do see it several times. Next up, we got another 1991. So you have that white border around, and Venom's looking okay. His size comparatively to the card is looking good, but just that face leaves more to be desired. I'm sorry if I'm going to be saying that a lot more, but it's not really aggressive. It's not really sly. It's just kind of plain. The back of it has some information such as his height and weight, and then abilities and the write-up. So a little bit of that basics, but they did include the height and weight, which is always fun to see. Next one is another famous battles. It's another versus. This one I find more interesting than the previous one, as Venom's got some more expression here. He was pretty unclear in the previous one. Actually, Venom's look pretty good here. I like how his face kind of stands out here in the artwork. And in the back, you got that write-up and some small images. Nothing great. Next up, we have a full big portrait of separation anxiety. Venom kind of leaving from Eddie Brock, separating. And again, it is what it is. It's a Marvel annual flair. You got a lot of Brock here, not much Venom. We want more Venom. We want more of them. And the back is pretty basic. It's clean. It's all right. It refers to a comic, which is great. Next up, we got Wolverine versus Venom. And this one, I put it as high as it is because of how close Venom is, so you can actually see him and Wolverine. Other than that, I mean, it's not that wonderful of a design, but it has two great iconic characters and the faces zoomed in the back. There we go. Next up, we have another of that series of Venom's abilities and weaknesses. So we're going to have that same background, but here he's all lit up in fire. I honestly thought I would have this card lower, as we don't even see Venom's colors here, but I gotta admit, even though he's in pain, our good old Venom, he's still looking pretty damn good in all those flames. The artwork here actually works with me, and I realized that when I started organizing these. Again, same back. Next is another of that series. That series has a lot of lower end Venom since there's so many in there, and there are a lot of poses that, well, don't put him in the good light. This is Spider Agility. We got a good showcasing of Venom here, good portion of the card, but you know, there's gonna be better stuff coming up. Next one, same series again, so same background, immune to spider sense. We got a bigger picture of Venom here, although Spider-Man's kind of in the way here, isn't he? He's a large part in this artwork, but Venom's looking good. I don't know if this card should be this high. I was never a fan of this card. This was a freeze frame series where they had a Marvel character drawn and posted over Photoshop, kind of over a photographed background. And he's over here over the Golden Gate Bridge, which is where Venom hangs out and all that. But the illustration of Venom here is just, it's uninspired. You can barely see the face. This always disappointed me. And I think I set it higher here just because of the card as a whole and how unique it is. But in all honesty, I am not a fan of this illustration. It's just very sort of lazy, especially comparing this one to other characters I've seen out there. There's going to be another one, I believe, that has a photograph in the back later. This is Marvel versus DC. So you have Lobo, a DC character, and Venom here. It's not great. You don't see much of Venom at all here, but at least you see him in all his glory and close up. That's a pretty unique card too. It was a pretty unique series. Next one is almost a classic of a Spider-Man versus Venom. This is from 1993. Venom looks good, big, muscular, chunky here. Spider-Man's small. They're taking up the right amount of space here together. This is a great card and nice close-ups on the back. Over here we have Spirits of Venom again. What I don't like here is Venom's kind of cut off and the positions are kind of postured for a photograph instead of being in action. So it's a little awkward there. And the back of it is kind of newspaperish. It's all right. Next, we're back to that one series with his different abilities and such. This is web shooting Venom, and you can see he's starting to look better, right? He's bigger. The illustrations of his muscles and intricacies are looking better, and with the same back, of course. Next up, this is one of the most recent cards that I got. This is a fairly newer card compared to most of my collection, and I'm just not really a fan. It's cool that Spider-Man's kind of being pulled back by all these Venoms, but like what's going on here? It's just kind of a cool design. I do actually like the layout of the back of the card. It looks nice. It has pretty generic information on Venom and such. So overall, the card itself, the graphic design work and stuff works here. It's pretty nice. Here's the alien costume of this very original little series that they did where it's basically a sculpture that they took photo of. This is the alien costume. Later we'll have Venom. I did set him higher, but this looks smooth. The anatomy here, this one's pretty awesome, and on the back here you can see all three of them. Carnage is there too. Carnage got done wrong. He did not look good in this little series. Next up we got Venom, bigger yet, and Spider-Man's here. I don't like the posing of this one. Otherwise it'd be higher because he's appearing big on here, but Venom's kind of in a weird pose where you see his side and back and you don't even see the bottom jaw. So yeah, just not a fan of the layout there. And then that Daily Bugle back. Here we're back to that one series showcasing his abilities. We got a wilder one of Living Costume. I do enjoy this one because it's pretty wild and crazy with the face taking over the other head and face. But overall, as an illustration and a card, it's okay. It's kind of average at this point. And of course, that back. Next up, we're going back to 1993 with a nice Venom portrait here of his whole body jumping at you. I guess the only negative here, it shows his body from top view, so it doesn't allow you to see a lot of things like abs, back, you know, his full legs, things like that. You're just seeing kind of a head-on view. So it's different, but it's not the best pose to go off of, right? What I do really like about this card, though, is the back. You got the strengths, you got him standing toward you, you got his portrait. So actually, this covers everything, so you know exactly who this character is. That's really cool. Good job, Skybox. Next one. Oh, I like this series. You're going to see more of this one, but this is my least liked one, I think, from this one because, I mean, I like the painterly style for sure. I like that it's different. That's why it's this high. But other than that, it doesn't showcase too much of Venom here. It's got the feels, but just not the visual and character details I'd want to see. And this is the back for these. I'll get into that a little bit more as we hit the next one like it. Now we're back to 1990 with the white border. This is a classic Venom. I thought this would be lower, but looking at his positioning, what this card is, how old it is, how kind of iconic it is, it's a good looking card. Venom looks good on it. So I had to put it here. The back, I gotta say, I enjoy the back. It shows his wins, his losses, his weight, height, and it has this portrait picture of him as if he were going into jail. I really enjoyed the combination of all that in the front of the card. This is just a good card. It might even deserve to be higher, and I do have like 3 of them. 1992, we got Super Villains. Venom's just looking wild here. It's not the best design. You got space in the background. It's all abstract, confusing. I enjoy Venom's crazy mouth here, and and that's probably the main reason why he got as high as he did here. Back has some more generic information and the stats. It's an okay back. It's kind of what you'd expect with looking at that front. So this one is a fairly newer card to my collection, and I notice I enjoy it more than I thought I would have, because to me it looks like pretty basic Spider-Man versus Venom, but just the way Venom looks here, and he's pissed off and he's kind of big, and Spider-Man's really beat up and struggling. Venom's face, the way he's roaring, I appreciate the artwork here. We got the Daily Bugle back. It works. It's a nice card. Over here, back to the series I quite enjoyed, The Exile Returns. Not much of Venom here, but I like this artwork. I like the artist here, the fires in the back, the contrast with Venom's darkness. His suit has not enveloped his head completely yet, but the body is just so massive and painted so well here. If this had a completed head, it would look amazing. But for what it is, this illustration is awesome. And the backs of these leave, I want to say it again, more to be desired. Just looking at that illustration and all that beautiful artwork, I would expect more from the back. Some more interesting stuff, information, not just a write-up with a repeated design layout that you see in this whole series. This card is older than I thought. To me, it looks like the newer Venom cards that come out, but this is actually 1994, and that explains why it's this low, because this is Venom upside down. It's a digitally painted work, and it looks good, but it's not that good, and you realize that because it's hard to tell sometimes when you look at the card quickly what's going on it, like seeing his teeth and all that. It's just not crisp clear, and that's why it's this kind of midway low on my list here. The back is kind of fun, I guess. Ultra Spider-Man series I enjoy. We have female symbiote kicking Venom's butt here. I do enjoy the artwork here, although Venom's isn't too great here, but it's just such a nice card, and the colors that, yeah, well, it made it as high as it did. These have the same backgrounds of a different write-up of Venom speaking, but then it gets crazier and bigger, the font does. So it's a pretty cool little idea. It's kind of enjoyable. It takes away from looking classy and expensive, but it keeps it kind of fun as a series. Next up, we got this Universe 1994 here, a nice old classic card showcasing Venom nicely in size, and then you got the embezzlements of the card with Crash and Burn all in gold, so that looks good. The back of it shows the layout of that whole scene where that card fits in, and Venom's right in the middle there, so hey, that's why this one's kind of higher than maybe I would even expect. And in another series in the same set of cards is Maximum Carnage here, and it has just Venom's crazy face really big. I just enjoy it. I think maybe I ranked it too high for now. Maybe later I'd set it lower. I'm not sure, but I just enjoy having a big portrait, a close-up of Venom's face somewhere, and the crazier it is, the funner it can be. And here's where he fits in on that series. And he's got a pretty good space too. He's in the lower right-hand corner there. Next up, back to that series of Spider-Man Ultra. We got him fighting the jury. I have a whole collection of Marvel cards, a whole set with all the characters, all of them. And it's all this artist, and it has Venom, and I don't know, I've just seen too much of this artist. This one doesn't really strike too much in me, although it's a good pose and it's a good paint up, and yeah, maybe it deserves to be higher. But now this artist, this I'll talk about more later. And you know I like the artist's work because Venom is barely visible in here. Carnage looks wonderful here, but this artist's illustrations look so awesome that this has made it so high up here. Here's a newer card from 2008, so that's when things were slow, and it looks like they were already starting to make cards more for like collecting and rarity. So it's got this big gold embezzlement here, which is kind of like, I like that, but it kind of looks just thick and shapeless here, and not that great of a design. Venom looks okay here. He looks very stylistic, kind of jumping at you. I do like that back design. Other than that, I don't know, just not that great. So this is an older card. I thought this would be lower on the list. I got this one fairly recently, but when I started comparing it with others, and that's a very hard thing to do, to organize like 100 cards like this from worst to favorite and take it seriously. I guess that's why I have the channel with 100,000 subscribers, because I take things like this seriously when I actually get to doing them. But this one ended up pretty high. Again, it's actually a pretty unique look at the face and Spider-Man in there and all the details with the spit and fangs and all that going on there. Nice classic back. It's a pretty cool card, I gotta say. I wonder how you guys feel about this one. Next one, I've had this one for a long time since I was collecting when I was younger, and it's got everything on it. It looks good. The card design is nice. That's why I went higher here. I like the blue bar on the left, and the back is cool, you know, it's fine. But just the Venom in the illustration, the character doesn't have anything to it that makes me really fall for it, that makes me enjoy it. This one is a huge disappointment to me, and being so high on this list so far really expresses that, I feel, because I want to really like this card. This is Venom the Madness, where he gets a bunch of heads. This could be the best card of all of them, but the design, the digital design on it is so lazy. You see repetitive patterns that are used in the liquid below, and it's like, what's going on? Because it's like toxic stuff, and the background's lazy. And then Venom's kind of there, but not too clear. I'd want to see him clear. The laziness of the design in the water is, I know at this time when digital art was at this stage, like that could have been cool, but that's still, I think even for those days, this would have been a lazy design. That's so not cool, because this one could have been an awesome card. The back of it, we'll see again, I think, and it's decent. I don't mind this reflection at the comic book with this kind of layout. It looks pretty good. Next one, we got a classic here. I believe this is an illustration of one of the first of the comic book cover, and that's Venom standing over beat up Spider-Man. Nice comic book style illustration. Looks good. The back looks great. It's just a good card. It's a quality card. It's questionable how high it should really be on this list. So this Venom is of the Marvel Masterpieces series that I have the whole Marvel set collection of, every character and all the special cards. And so I'm kind of bored of looking at this Venom. What always kind of bothered me is most of the better illustrations that I have of Venom that you'll see put him against a very bright background to contrast with his darkness. Here they kind of put him against a dark night. Putting something dark and black against darkness is not the best move sometimes to make it stand out, but I mean, it still works here. He looks good. It's just, I've looked at it so many times. It's in my whole series. I'm not sure if it deserves to be higher, but I have a feeling that possibly so. The backs of these, actually, what I appreciate, and I'll talk about this more later, is it has some generic info on him, but it also has an artist's note, and I always enjoy those. Here is Venom and Spidey as allies, so not versus each other, and it's just kind of a special card. It's really clean. It's just a good looking card with the green bottom, and the motion illustration that was done here is pretty unique. Venom looks really just kind of happy and just really crisp and clear, and his face looks really good in this one, even though the size of it. This one just works. Kind of a fun, different card. And the back of it shows a great Venom from the comic book, Lethal Protector. So overall, this card's pretty awesome, actually. Okay, this is a metal card. I'm going to get into this more later. They're nice quality, thick cards. They have these shiny effects under the light, and that's really what helped this card get up here, because otherwise I do not like this pose. This was not a good idea. I don't know who approved it. Drawing a pose of Venom from behind him, kind of looking up, showing his back muscles, arms going kind of down and getting skewed, and everything not fitting very well in the shape and size of the card. It's not good, but the foil design of the card and the material is of course great, and that's why it's here. The back is okay. It's a bit playful and all that. It's a metal blaster. This one's fun, and I'm glad I got this one pretty recently. It's got Demo Goblin, which I do enjoy, but looking at Venom here, it looks like a completely different artist did him here than like anything we've seen so far or will see. He just looks different and more roundy, just a different look, and that's where I can appreciate this card, and all the color work and layout here is just a really fun design. The back of it is that back you've seen before. It all works. This is a special collector's Venom from that whole set that I told you I own with all the Marvel cards. I never was too into how these were set up with the sparklies, but Venom looks pretty decent here. He's got a pretty cool layout on the card, and I think I'd appreciate this card more now because they never did this again, so this is the only one with this small sparkle look. In the back, there's no artist note this time. It just has more of a collector's kind of back. Now here we got a super strength Venom from the series you saw many of earlier, but here he looks big and very veiny, huge muscles. I had him past the next couple Venoms, but I took him down because it's a little bit less clear of what's going on when you quickly look at this as he's bending this bar or something, showcasing his strength. His face looks kind of stretched, but it's a still pretty awesome card. So I'll show you which one one beat it in the same series, which is this one. And I decided this one's better just because you're still seeing the veiny muscles, which I preferred on the previous one, but his silhouette, his stance is more interesting, his face, all that is better. And actually, sorry, this is a different series. And you can tell with this different back, and the back's pretty cool. I always like a back where they show a Venom again in a different artwork pose. I mean, that's 2 illustrations for the price of 1, right? Whereas some cards just give you 1 illustration in the front and none in the back, or a really small portrait in the back. Then you got Fearsome Venom, another big portrait of his face, and this is from that series. You can see it connects, the tongue goes off, and it goes on to the next card. And I like this portrait. It looks great. It's clean, it's decently sized, and it goes well with that pinkish background and the green secondary lights. It looks good. Then we got that same back. Then we got this special card. It's 1992. I've had it for a while. It was one of my older ones for a while. I thought it was worth something because it's from 1992, and then I realized that's not how it works. It's all about how mass-produced they were. But then I realized, you know, actually this card is pretty cool because the way Venom is standing here and the whole design, it's quite unique. You wouldn't think it just seeing this one, but when you have dozens of Venom cards, you realize this one's actually pretty unique. And as I stated before, putting him with a bright opposite colored background makes him look good, makes everything stand out. And this card really proved it. The back of it I always found classy. It has a pretty generic write-up of who Venom is, but it has the comic, and you see that comic illustration which was on the card previously. It's overall a nice card, and I believe that was a nice collection. Next up, we got Marvel Annual with Knights of Vengeance from 1995, and anything with Vengeance, Ghost Rider, especially Vengeance, anything with Vengeance and Venom, I really appreciate. I think that duo looks great. Whether they're fighting or on the team together, they are 2 awesome monsters, and so this card shows them, although it could be better, and that's why it's this high or low on the list. And there's the comic book shot in the back. That's always a good thing. Next up, we got this shiny hologram card. I guess this one's pretty popular. I didn't see this one until more recently as I got back into collecting and finding some cards. The illustration itself is pretty plain. The layers of how the hologram works, and remember this from 1992, is nice and clean, but it's nothing that amazing. The colors that the hologram does are just your basic rainbow colors, but yeah, still a pretty cool, unique card. And the back of this card is pretty plain. It's kind of a promotional piece. The next card is the same card. Everything's the same in the front, but the back of the card is a little bit more interesting. You got your generic info on Venom, and you have the same illustration showcased as the full painting, so you can see how that looks like in detail. I just like that one more than the previous one because of the background. Otherwise, they're the same card. This is the other freeze frame sort of card I brought up earlier that we'll see another one, and you can see this one has quite a bit more effort put to it. It's not that great. These old freeze frames just don't look that realistic or well merged of the 2 universes, but Venom does look pretty nice here. The positioning doesn't show that much of him. I don't know if this should even be that high here, but overall his artwork is nice, clean, and he looks good. What more can we ask for? The back is good as well. It showcases the comic. Next one is a fairly new card, and from what I've seen, I don't care too much for a lot of the new cards. I think this is from a gaming one. This is the highest of any such card that got here, but the shiny effects of the card and the illustration work really well together. Actually, the design of this card, and I'm definitely not talking about the rounded corners, but the artwork itself and the materials used for this card really work well together, and it is an attractive card. The back, let's not even talk about it. Moving on. This one, I'm not sure if it deserves to be really this high as the portrait. I mean, the look of Venom is great. Nothing amazing, but it's very good. It's comic book art, but what makes this unique is it's a see-through card. You turn it around and you have a red border. It's the same thing, but it's still pretty cool because it's a plastic see-through card, and he has his web there, which really works with the effect of the clear plastic. Next is a hologram with Scarlet Spider. Venom looks pretty decent on here, but nothing amazing. The hologram of Scarlet Spider looks really good. This is just a good looking card. The design here is the aesthetics, the balance of everything, because again, Venom doesn't look as top notch as maybe we've seen previously. Maybe this is a bit high here, but with that clean, nice back, it's a good looking card. Next one up, this is an artist I'm really enjoying, and this is who I learned is Tom Kiffin. Tom Kiffin. He's gonna have a lot of my favorite Venoms here. I simply adore how he illustrated Venom. His illustrations as a whole rock, but you will always know it's his illustration looking at how detailed Venom's eyes are with those little black spots remaining in the eyes. His artwork is very detailed. It's still painterly. It's crisp. I really enjoy his Venoms. We'll see some more. One of his got really high, I think top 5 5 on my list. Next one, I've had this card for a long time, but I remember as a kid getting this one, and that's such a rush too. You get a pack of 5 cards or however many it was, and you open it up. They're so clean, and they smell like factory ink. Oh, those highs. I always was excited that I ever got this. This is not one I traded for, but looking now at this is a great comic book drawn, painted Venom. He lays out on his card very well. It's part of a set with other cards, which can mess up how he's positioned in the card because you have to work with the whole artwork, as you can see on the back here, but he works really well. He took the stage, definitely. On this whole artwork of other characters, you gotta admit, Venom looks the best on there. He's got his own card. He's not sharing it. He's not even sharing it with a lot of fire or buildings. It's all him here, and what a great pose to put him in, to fit him on a rectangular shape. And on the back, you even get a portrait of him. This is just an awesome card. I'm curious whether my biasness made it go up this high. I want to hear your thoughts about it. Make sure you timestamp the video so I know what you're talking about if you comment. Now remember this guy, the alien costume? I do have the Venom that goes with it, and I do position him higher. This whole style isn't so crisp and maybe awesome like others, but it's very unique. You can tell this is an actual 3D sculpt, not digital sculpt in the digital realm. It's like in our realm, it's actually a photo of a sculpture of Venom, and he looks cool too. He's all veiny and all this. Some things could have probably been done better. Certain details like cleanliness of the teeth around the eyes there make it more crisp, but it's still an awesome card and one of a kind, and that's why it is as high as it is, because I don't think it's that amazing of artwork here as a whole, but it's a unique card and I think it deserves to be this high. Now this is a classic shot of Venom. This is Lethal Protector here. This is from the comic book cover. This has a bit more of the digital paintiness to it. These 94 flares are thick cards. They're classy cards. The backs are nice with that globe and reference comics and then the information. I was always happy to get my hands on one of these. Next one, actually, the illustration isn't that amazing. Everything's good. I like the highlight from the city lights and such on Venom's knee and leg area there. I think that's a pretty cool artsy touch, but this card specifically is a special one that says I love New York there on the side, and that's signature card. Those always look awesome. I have this one and I do have the normal one as well. I have to judge the normal one here, so I have to admit that the normal one makes it this high in the list, but with all those embezzlements, that special edition card looks awesome. The next one means a lot to me because when I was trading back when I was 13 or whatever, I really wanted this card. This was a metal card, and first of all, there was a rumor going around that metal cards actually had a plate of metal inside, a metal card inside. I don't think that's true. I didn't actually rip one open, but I'm quite sure that's not true. They were called metal. They had the shiny effect to it, and Venom looked awesome to me at that time. He was in the water coming out of it with all the water coming off of him, and I offered the kid that had this Venom a bunch of cards. I offered him my entire collection of Marvel from the 1994, all the Marvel I had, every character in that collection, and he wouldn't give me this card. Now it's actually not very valuable, and in my memory he looks so amazing coming out of the water, but actually looking at the illustration now, it's okay. The shininess adds a lot to it because looking at the illustration below, it's hard to differentiate some things like his hand coming forward. It's hard to see that it's like closer to you than the other part of his body. If you glance quick, it looks confusing. So actually it's not that great of a design and all that, but hey, old memories. Pretty fun back of the card. I'm wondering how you guys feel about this one being this high. This one might be a little bit too high for some of you. A large part of me enjoying the Venom card collecting hobby when I was young is just seeing the different takes on Venom. One's big, one's sly. You got the slick and sly. The teeth are all the same. Then you got the crazy teeth, different gnarly sized teeth. Then you got the really bulky, over muscled Venom. Then you got the sleek, thinner Venom that's more stealth. You got so many types. And then this one always looked like really brutal. Like he's just so big. He's like one of the biggest, if not the biggest Venom on any of these cards. And his face just looks different. It looks monstrous. Almost doesn't look like Venom. It's a really different card and I always appreciated it for it. Next one up is a classic, as we do see this one as almost a logo. And this is the merging of the two. And that's a 94 flared digital work. Again, thick card, nice presentation on the back. The thickness of the card actually means a lot. When you handle that and you have a bunch of cards around, that really stands out as a premium. This one could deserve to be higher. It's a pretty iconic picture. This is a more recent edition I got, but it's actually from 95. And I have the special edition signature and the cool writing on the side that says Symbiote there. That one looks amazing. Like already this card, I wasn't sure how high it should be. It's a different take on on the artwork and what we're showing here. It's very gummy, it's very fleshy, very rounded. It's quite different than most of the artwork you'll see, and I think a lot of people will not like this, whereas some people will understand that, hey, this one's just different. It's very colorful, and maybe it deserves to be up here. There's that texturing on the tongue. Because it's this unique, I put it up here, but in addition with that embezzlement of the signature and that symbiote writing, that looks excellent. It looks like a really, really good card from the front. The back is okay. It's not very interesting to me. Next card is 95. Whenever I look at this, I think it's like a newer card because it has a newer look to it. It's almost like ahead of its time in the artwork. You see more of this kind of approach to Marvel cards like later on. And so I've come to realize I really like this work. There's a gradient of color, which can be lazy, but the action within the artwork takes it to the higher level for me. Not only is it very detailed, which I appreciate, the veininess, you can see every fang, but then you look in the background and you see those bands just shooting all over the place. You can feel the movement looking in the background of this one. It's a cool card. It's a cool design. The back actually is the same as the last one. I guess it's the same series. Not that great, to be honest. It's okay. Next one, a newer card, and another one where he's upside down. It's from 2007. Since I had some biasness against new cards, although when I first picked this one up, I checked the artwork and I was just contemplating that this is a great work of art. The color work, the paintermanship, just everything is awesome here. And to be able to get it done right and make him upside down and make his body all bulky and the aesthetics and the balance of his body to his feet to his hand, like it's a great design, really great illustration. The back is classy and I'm all right with it. It's even got a shiny little diamond thing down there. We got another newer one, actually from 2021. Very new, but this one actually, all biasness aside, is a great card. It's got the shiny aesthetics of metal to it, and then Venom looks great in it too, and different too. It definitely looks like another artist took upon him, and I love the details of the bottom of his foot. Like that's something you'll always look at, but you'll never really think about it but until you make a video like this, and then you say, wait, this artist took the time to detail the bottom of Venom's somewhat flat bottom foot. So anyway, that's just an awesome card. And when I was saying about how collecting Marvel cards changed, this series kind of showcases it. This is the only one I care to get because it's different. There are more Venoms in this series, but it's all the same card with different color backgrounds. So this one's kind of violety, indigo, purple. There's another one that's red, another one that's green, and that's how they go by rarity. So if you have like a green one or a yellow one, that's going to be really expensive compared to this purple one. And that's just like a collector's kind of thing that they do now. And I'm not into that. That's not how they approached this back in the day, but back in the day it was more active, so people were trading and buying it a lot. Nowadays, the people that are buying these are adults, so they're going to buy them for collecting and for value. That means you lose a lot of creativity in this hobby of cards because you get so many duplicates that look similar, but then there's some change that makes one worth much more than the other. And now, let's see if you can guess the artist here. I told you about him, Tom Keffin. You can always tell by Venom's eyes. So here's another one from him. There's going to be, I think, a couple more. So this is Mace and Venom's looking awesome here. If Venom was bigger on here, this would be much higher because the way Venom looks here is excellent. I love the shininess of his head, the details here, just how this artist portrays Venom is exquisite. And the same with this next one. It's a different artist, but I love this card. It's a common card, you know, nothing special. I myself have two of them, but what I always loved on this one is Venom wasn't the biggest one on this one. I showed you that one previously was Sable, but this one has his like the biggest like proportionate muscles. I guess that's how I categorized these things in my head when I was little. Just look at his arm size here compared to everything else. And then on the right side, that's his arm continued, even though the colors make it look like Daredevil. That's just the lighting and coloring, but that's Venom's arms. He just looks insane, but then he's got that crisp, stealthy kind of clean face here. So this card is just fun and I enjoy what's happening here. Although it's kind of confusing when you're trying to figure out what you're looking at here, like the stripes. I'm not going to overthink it right now though, but I have a feeling that maybe I set this Venom up higher than a lot of you guys would, but it's got history with me. Next up, we got this Venom. This used to be my top like 3 or 4 Venom cards because it's got a little bit of everything going. Venom looks great and then it's the whole shiny hollow foil materialism for it. And this this is the Golden Web Spider-Man Fleer Ultra. What a set that was too. This is a great card. It has a lot of character, very specific kind of Venom here. And I do appreciate this back. It's an artist write-up of what they were trying to showcase in this painting. Let me read it up real quick. Since Venom is almost totally black, it was a challenge detailing things like his musculature and hands. Background helps. I used red to add action and indicate potential violence. Awesome. And actually we'll see that strategy repeat, such as right now again. This is another one from Spider-Man Fleer Ultra, but masterpieces. Venom looks okay here. His position here is awkward as he's battling Carnage. Carnage's pose looks awesome here. Venom's is awkward, and I think that awkwardness should even take maybe this card down lower, maybe even under that green Venom that I just enjoyed, because imagine if you're just seeing Venom for the first time and this is the way you're seeing him in this kind of pose. I don't know. But again, this card with the back as a masterpiece and the holofoil, the shininess as a card as a whole, it deserves a pretty high spot. Let me read this artist note real quick for you. Let's try to figure out what he was thinking here. When you look at Venom, you instantly see his huge size and mass. You don't see agility or gracefulness, just pure brute strength. And see, that's how this artist saw him, and that's how he painted him. Whereas other artists don't just see him as brute strength, but they also see him as something crazy or almost demonic or really stealthy and quick. So there's different sides of Venom. All right, next one. This is a big one. In the recent months, when I was grabbing some more cards, I realized one of my favorite artists, Boris Vallejo, did a Venom, and him and his wife did Venom, and his wife is Julie Bell. Her painting style and his are very similar to one another. They are a master painting couple. They are a power couple in the artist world, especially the fantasy artist world, and especially of the traditional realm, not digital. They are excellent artists, and I'm sad to say because Boris's Venom here isn't that great. He zoomed in a bunch and then he didn't do all the things that he's so amazing at. Whereas his wife, Julie Bell, did an awesome couple of Venom cards. And maybe we'll see one in a little bit here. But those ones that she did look very much like what he would do for whatever reasons at those days. Boris's name, I believe, was more well known. He did movie covers and book covers and all sorts of things. Very influenced by Frank Frazetta. So this card, I finally could get something done by Boris. Boris did an amazing Wolverine on the back of a Venom card. I'm still trying to get that one, so spoilers there. That Wolverine he did though, and the Ghost Rider are amazing. Look up Boris Vallejo Ghost Rider and Wolverine. His Wolverine is quite possibly my favorite Wolverine illustration of all time. Even though I know his art well and I could imagine seeing much better things than this is still good, and it's Boris Vallejo. There's that biasness, so that's why this card is as high as it is. The back of it, I have to say, I like the layout, but I wish there was a comment by the artist. That would have completed the masterpiece that these cards were. Next one is a pretty known hologram. I saw this one back in the day and I was like, man, I don't know if I'll ever get this one. And again, these are collector's one, although they're older. It's 1993, but different colors of these have different values and rarity attached to them. I have this green or kind of turquoise one, but I gotta say the hologram is awesome. When you get this under right lighting, it is so cool because you could see how this was sculpted and then photographs were taken of it. At least that's how I imagine this was done, and it just looks awesome. Unfortunately for the back of it, there is absolutely nothing. It's just a shiny black back. It's almost like a sticker, but this is not a sticker. All right, I'm not gonna say anything. Have you seen this artist before? Yes or no? Tom Keffin. This is his highest rank card I put on here. As I mentioned, if that previous one had Venom larger, I think that one would beat this one and maybe the next one, but this one has Venge on it. Venom looks excellent. You see all the straining in his neck, all the details on his fingers and claws and fangs and tongue and eyes, where his jaw parts connect to the fangs, and even the side of his face where there's like a bone, like a cheekbone. I want to see more of this guy's Venoms. If he did a Venom card with only Venom on him, I think that would be possibly my number 1 or number 2 card of all time. This guy rocks. Unfortunately, it still shares a background that others have. Kind of a fun background, but it doesn't have the masterpiece kind of respectable touch. Next up, this was not traded. I can still remember I got this card in a card pack. It's so awesome when you're seeing all these like regular matte cards, regular prints, and then this shiny metallic thing comes out. Where to begin with this one? Just the layout of everything, how everything works in the scope of the shape of the rectangle, the colors from the purples, the blues, blues, the greens, the hot colors, the cool colors. The negatives, I guess I would say, is Venom's portrait doesn't look that monstrous, his face, and I was always confused with what's going on with his backhand grabbing the web, and I think the artist made a mistake there, because that white square should go on top of his hand, not under where his thumb is, and that looks like it's by his thumb area. Although if that's the top of his hand, because it looks like there's other fingers there, then why is his thumb so thick on the bottom? So I think there's a mistake in this illustration, and that sucks, because otherwise this as a card, not just Venom as an artwork, but as a whole card, the shininess and how they applied the shininess and the colors to the foil, it's an excellent card. I know it's common out there, but it doesn't matter. It still looks great. Let's take a quick read of that back, what the artist was thinking. I used disease and unnatural colors to show a sickly green city, which would convey Venom's warped outlook on life. That's awesome. Now, if you could just explain what's going on with this hand in the back there. So this card is from a pretty cool series. They kind of had a different layout there with the titling on the bottom. And I think there's not many fans of this card. That's just a feels. I haven't talked to anybody, but I really like this card. The background colors of it make it feel very alien and like what's going on. Like there's even droplets there, but just his open mouth pose and the spit and the craziness of it just had me loving this card from the first day. And I had to get another one that was in better quality. It's a cheap card. It might be one of those cards that I buy a bunch of to raise the value. I don't think I can actually do that though. I'd have to probably buy over 100 or so to have that kind of influence on the market. But let me know what you guys think. Please timestamp this and let me know if you really like this portrait or not. I always appreciate that weird whole throat. That was really unique and kind of reptilian-like. Very different kind of card. No other character looked this kind of different in that whole set from what I recall. Back of it is great too, and it shows Venom in more of his comic book look, which is very different from that portrait. And here we are, my top 3. Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, and on top of that, Gold Foil Signature Series. If you've been aware of Venom cards, I'm assuming you weren't expecting this one to be so high on my list, but I have always absolutely loved this rendition of Venom. It's got everything. It's got the muscle, the craziness, with an art style that accentuates all of it. I was a little afraid that while setting this list up, just because I've had this card ever since I was a kid, that I would disregard how much I like it. But I think looking through all of the cards, one by one carefully, only solidified how I feel about it. The back is basic, it's okay, nice layout, no eyesores. Back to that motion of the front, I am just really curious how you guys feel about this one, because this is fairly a common card. This artist did great, and this whole set was wonderful. Nielsen's Venom has always been amongst my top 3. You could say that it lacks the realism. Sure, it's a bit more obscure, a little bit abstract, but you can't deny it has a ton of character. I love who he is here. Another thing to pay attention to with Venom portraits are those eyes, how the artist wants to cut out those white shapes. Do they make those little swirls at the front as the artist did here, which gives it the illusion of pupils? Or do they make that area bigger and smoother with just some sharp edges? These top 3 cards being reorganized in any way, I'd be happy to see whichever one at the top or third. They're all splendid to me. And with that, we're moving on to Julie Bell, Boris Vallejo's lady, artist wife, that power couple. This is the one she did, which again looks very Boris Vallejo-like, because there are slight differences between their style. I almost feel like this is a painting maybe he worked with her on, because the realism of the muscles, of Venom's muscles here, are very Boris Vallejo. It's an excellent, very realistic rendition. This is not a digital painting. You got a very contrasting Venom to the previous one. Here his face is more structured. Those eyes are again smooth compared to the jitteriness of the last one. Very different painting style, but both are very painterly, although very different, and that's why they're a wonderful composition together. The reflections of other lights and fire, the different purples and the skin tones, they just look great. My only negatives to this one is, well, one, it is a duo composition overall, so his arm continues to the next card where Spider-Man's at. So you don't get the full picture of Venom on one card. But aside from that, the only other thing that kind of bugs me is that his thumb kind of blocks off a view of what would be a wonderful view of his mouth and tongue. I'm curious why they decided to go with that position. I mean, the pose works. I would just like to have seen that hand a little bit lower, or maybe the thumb bent or something like that, just so the face portrait portrait is unaffected and not hidden at all. It's one of my most recent additions to the collections and one of my most desirable additions ever. Other than the card I mentioned earlier where it's two-sided with Wolverine and Venom on the other side, Wolverine done by Boris Vallejo and the Venom done by Julie Bell again. So that means Julie Bell did two of the Venoms, and that other Venom on that card looks just as good in quality as this one, just totally different color scheme. Other than that, this was it for me. So I'm very happy to have it. The back is a very nice design, very clean. It has another view of the painting, which is fine. It's a nice masterpiece, but the write-up is a generic description of Venom instead of being a write-up by the artist. Again, an artiste's write-up, especially if it's in addition to a description of Venom or some details, that's the best for a write-up for me for the back. So that's a little bit of a shame here. Again, if you're a fan of Venom cards, you probably weren't expecting to see this one. It's another common card, actually, much more common than the previous one, but I always found this card gorgeous, just as a Marvel card. So this is Fleer Ultra Spider-Man Masterpieces. This is from 1995, and the previous one was from 1996. And by the way, check out that whole set of that previous one with Julie Bell's art. That whole set is amazing. Seeing all the different characters done by those two artists, excelente. No wonder the monetary value is there as well. But this one I had to set as my top number one because the colors work and it's a hollow foil. Now, before I continue with that, as far as the colors go, what did you see that's recurring with the last three, even somewhat the last four top cards here? And it is the contrasting fiery yellows and reds of the background to contrast with Venom's dark symbiote tones. So you can see how well those colors work together. They're utilized all over here, but mostly at these higher end cards. I will admit that as far as the painting, the last two beat this one in the painting styles and the details and intricacies, but that doesn't mean this one's painting isn't that great. It is wonderful. It expresses Venom excellently, but on top of that, the whole graphic design and the hollow foil of the card sets it as my most striking. Whenever I just see this one and pull it out and see the full glistening, clean shininess, it just makes me so appreciate this thing as a product. Not just an art piece or something, but as an actual product. Even among the other hollow foils in this series of the different characters, if you put Venom there, just with these colors and how close you get his face and everything, it really stands out. And to stand out among a bunch of hollow foil cards just means that it'll definitely have a chance to stand out here as well among this variety of cards. And to top it all off, probably what kind of edged me to put this at the top because I enjoy this back too. It's the back of a canvas. We've seen it previously, and it's the artist's write-up. Dimitri Patelis. Venom's actions never seem to have any logic. He just runs around with his tongue swinging like a wild rabid dog. Do I agree? I don't know. I kind of like that previous one where the artist said that they tried to show Venom's warped outlook on life. I thought that was a pretty cool write-up. But I love these kind of write-ups as they're kind of a cherry on top and they kind of glue everything together to better understand what you're looking at and why. So I'm sure a lot of people will disagree. I'm assuming even a lot of people will take the previous one above this one, but again, top three cards here can be interchanged anyway. I can consider them all first place. In the end, I'd love to know what you guys think. I'm going to keep building this collection, and if I make a video in the future on an update of it, what I'm going to do is organize all the cards chronologically, I think. Maybe I'll just do updates for every new group of Venom cards I get. I'm not sure, but the way they're organized in my book now is from my worst to personal favorite. And what are your personal favorites here? And thoughts on the different looks of Venom and also his card designs.